Hi guys, welcome to The Drop. I'm Maha. And after a 2-year-long wait, The Crown is back. And I have Munib and Maha to discuss more on this. Hi guys.
Hello.
So it's around 1970s, 80s, and the royal mantle has been passed on from Claire Foy to Olivia Colman. We have a much more mature cast. What did you guys think about that?
Well, the opinion is quite divided as far as, I've been seeing the comments on social media as well as other Crown fans that I've been talking to. They feel that there's a lack of continuity and it's too distracting for them to see new faces and new actors playing the roles that they had learned to love over the last 2 seasons. A lot of people feel that Claire Foy was the person who was more apt and the most apt one to play this role. But, I just heard Peter Morgan's interview, the creator of The Crown, and he also wrote The Queen, the film, interestingly.
Oh, really?
So he's quite the royal biographer on camera. And he says that had he, aged Matt Smith or Claire Foy and the rest of the cast, Vanessa Kirby, through using prosthetics or CGI, that would not have seemed natural because it's, age brings with it that experience which reflects on your face, those lines, those wrinkles, and so he needed that realistic touch. And so what it requires for us viewers is to be a bit more broad-minded.
A bit more accepting, I guess.
Yeah, I feel so. Yeah. Because we can take it as a, standalone story as well, season 3 on its own, even if you haven't seen the previous 2 seasons. So I feel that the cast that he has assembled together for this season, I think they're quite apt for the roles that they've been assigned.
And additionally, I just feel like that the new cast mirrors their actual lives of those people, right? Their own relationships at that time were maturing, and so is the cast now. And you see a lot of chemistry between the cast themselves. I love the chemistry between Prince Philip and the Queen.
Yeah, I feel there is more chemistry.
Yeah, there is more chemistry with this, and it makes sense, right? Because even their own relationship is maturing at that time, is much mature, and Prince Philip is settled as in his duty and in his role. So I love the new Prince Philip.
There's one thing though, I feel that a lot of people are comparing Claire Foy and Olivia Colman a lot, and they feel that Olivia Colman is perhaps too expressive. She gives too much away, too much of the emotion that is going on beneath. Whereas if you look at Queen Elizabeth II, the real one, you can hardly tell what she's feeling like. And but again, I think that Olivia Colman, we should not be comparing her to the real life Queen or her predecessor in this role. I think she was the most apt to play this role because she's already played royals twice before. In her Oscar-winning turn in The Favourite last year, and then she also played Queen Mother, interestingly, in Hyde Park on Hudson in 2012. So who better, in her middle age, unless we can make Helen Mirren age backwards and make her accept this role.
And has this season lost interest in Elizabeth's character? And has it tilted more towards the others? Does she have a more supportive role now?
I think that even in real life, if you look at it, the public is these days more interested in other royals than just her. Because I think people, Meghan Markle, Kate Middleton, what they're wearing, what they're doing, what the Sussexes, what Prince Harry's up to. And now, unfortunately, Prince Andrew, after the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. So somehow the Queen, I think, has taken a lot for granted. People believe that she's always going to be there like a constant, just like Big Ben is watching over the city of London all the time. The Queen, at least in our lifetimes, has always been there. So I feel that because there's not much drama going on at her front, but it's other members of the royal family, for example, Prince Charles and his marriage breakdown with Diana, his affair with Camilla Parker Bowles, and then his marriage to her. So, these things, I think, deflect attention away from the Queen, the more neutral one, and other members of the royal family, I think they're much more emotive. And also that they're much more emotive and in the public eye, and there's much more drama going on in there. So I think that might be the reason. So even in this season, The Crown, you see these years that they've depicted in season 3 from 1964, it ends in 1977 on a silver jubilee. I don't think these are very dramatic years anyway. One has to wait for, I think, season 4 when they are going to bring Margaret Thatcher, which will be interestingly played by Julian Anderson in a very interesting casting coup. And then the character of Princess Diana will also be there. So you'll have the Iron Lady and the English Rose both in season 4. I think that is even going to be more exciting. But again, due to other characters other than the Queen herself, if you notice.
And for me, the most memorable scene was, you mentioned Camilla Parker Bowles, the introduction of Camilla and how there's an uncanny resemblance to the real Camilla. There's a start of a relationship that would eventually lead to not one, but the ruin of many other lives, including Diana. So for you, what was your most memorable episode or scene in the season?
So for me, I think the most memorable was the episode Moondust, in which the astronauts come to Buckingham Palace, and there's this, this Prince Philip is just like hooked onto the screen, and he's just looking, and like we were discussing that, he can't show that emotion, right? He can't show that fan moment, but you see that in him. But like what was most interesting is that when he meets them, he's just like, oh, these are just ordinary people. And he's just so shook by that. And and I loved how they related that to the faith thing, how he's like, he's not that religious. At the start of the episode we see that he's just like, oh, this church, and it's just it's just backward somewhere, and then his faith is restored because
after
he's like,
his mother.
And also the fact that he looks at these people and he's just like, no, there's something else out there, that I'm seeking. So that, for me, that was really interesting.
There are precious few standout moments as far as I'm concerned when I was watching the third season. First of all, I think Princess Margaret, she's always been a very intriguing character. Even in the first two seasons, she's the heartbroken one, and heartbroken characters make for the most interesting ones. Interestingly, I've got an anecdote to share though, that in season 3, Princess Margaret is being played by Helena Bonham Carter. And just before, in the same week that the third season was going to premiere on Netflix, I had actually met Helena Bonham Carter in London. So I was attending a BAFTA event, and that event was related to some other documentary film of hers, but in the middle of it, I mentioned to her that I'm really looking forward to seeing you playing Princess Margaret, particularly in The Crown. And all of a sudden, she just, looked at me so intently the moment I mentioned it that I could tell right away that this is one character very close to her heart. And she's even been going on saying that she used a psychic to be able to communicate to Princess Margaret, which sounds creepy. But I do feel she's gone out of her way, and she's very possessive about this character as well. And so that shows on screen, especially episode 10 is all about her. And there's this scene on a dining table where she wants to tell her family, in front of other guests as well, that her marriage is breaking down, and no one is interested in listening to her, perhaps because that's how the royal family is. They wouldn't want their emotions to be shown. They would want that, whatever turbulence is going on in your private lives should not be brought onto the fore, should not be brought onto the surface. And then she creates a public scene there, and then she, resists, and she rebels actually that she wants her voice to be heard. And another, standout scene for me was one where the last few moments that they've shown between Duke of Windsor, who had abdicated the throne, he was the king, and when he in his last few moments meets the Queen. And that again, makes the viewer think, how does the royal family, which seems so mysterious, they're not supposed to show their emotions, like I said, what goes on behind the scenes, and how do they, on a personal level, because ultimately they are human beings. So how do they balance their public duties with their private lives? Because another anecdote, actually, there are a lot of it, so it's very difficult for me to be objective about The Crown. So just before, a week before the premiere of this, I'd actually gone to Remembrance Sunday event where I had members of the royal family standing in front of me, commemorating the martyrs of the First World War. And I was looking at Princess Anne in particular, another very interesting character depicted in this series, and she was standing there, and Charles, who's the next king in line. And I saw these people standing for half an hour, and that is quite a long time for someone like me to observe them. And I could clearly tell that they were standing there out of a sense of duty. That is something that they have been trained to do ever since their childhood. And also, I really enjoyed the episode called Bubbikins, which depicted the very lesser known relation and equation between Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, and his mother, whom he initially refuses to acknowledge. Perhaps he's a bit embarrassed, and how, that was quite heartbreaking to watch.
There's this mysterious past attached to him, right?
And when he finally understands the value of what his mother had done, how brave she was.
It was a bit too late, wasn't it?
But the good thing is that they reconcile, and he realizes that this is the brave woman who gave up all those privileges of royalty, and she was there on the ground helping Nazi victims out. A lot of Jews she helped during her time. So there were a lot of these moments. I can't just come up with one, but these are the highlights.
There's one more thing. You mentioned Margaret, so before we wrap up, I'm just gonna say that I've written it down actually. There's a really poignant scene where she's speaking to her sister, the Queen, and she says, it's only fallen apart if we say it has. That's the point of us, you. You cannot flinch, because if you show a single crack, we'll see it isn't a crack but a chasm, and we'll all fall in. So you must hold it all together.
that's precisely the point. You know, heavy is the head which wears the crown.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's so timeless, this line. You know, every day people might be questioning, you know, what's the point of this royal family, right?
Yeah.
What are they doing?
Yeah.
And this line kind of just answers it for them. You know,
right,
it satisfies them.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for coming today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And from Team Drop, we would all like to wish you a very happy new year.
We're really excited to share fantastic content with you
on all the fun topics.
Please subscribe to our channel by
clicking on the subscribe button below.